Le Mans, it's a name that stands out in motorsport. The 24 hours of Le Mans has always been a test of speed and endurance. For decades, it's been the proving ground for drivers and teams to push the limits for what's physically possible. In the early years of Group C racing, one team ruled, Porsche, and with a 956 and a 962 they were unbeatable for 6 years straight. These cars combined cutting edge design and relentless power and built a gap that almost seemed impossible to beat. But in motorsport, all good things come to an end, and one team came out of hibernation to take on Porsche firsthand. This is the comeback story of the infamous Le Mans team, Jaguar, and how they took on the kings of Le Mans to take back their throne. Jaguar's story starts with innovation and ambition, and in the 1920s with Sir William Lawrence they started to produce race cars. Lawrence's vision for the company was summed up with his motto, grace, space, pace. And with these three words set the standard of what would come to be Jaguar. In pre-war they had a few notable mentions of cars, but nothing really took off. Unfortunately the war did take place and everything was paused for 5 years, but straight post-war, Jaguar set out to do one thing, and that was win fucking races. Jaguar's first racing success was in the 1950s with the Jaguar C-Type. Designed by Malcolm Sayer with that XK engine, it was a formidable machine. The car debuted at Le Mans with drivers behind the wheel like Sterling Moss himself. Unfortunately, he suffered with mechanical problems during the race, but Jaguar still won. With Peter Walker and Peter Whitehead, they finished 1-2 and cemented Jaguar's first ever Le Mans win. And from there, with the C and D type, over 7 years, they won 5 times, foreshadowing what Porsche would do then many more years down the line. Unfortunately, by the late 1950s, the cost for running the Le Mans team was just too high, and unfortunately Jaguar had to pull their constructors team out of Le Mans, but still honoured privateer teams, and they still won with a 1-2 finish in 1957, but Jaguar was put to rest. From all this Le Mans success, Jaguar definitely has a brand, and on the back of this they built iconic cars just like the Jaguar E-Type, a beautiful car, and in Enzo Ferrari's own word himself, it was the most beautiful car ever built. By the 1980s, Jaguar definitely had a bit of an itch to scratch seeing Porsche's success at Le Mans, and from what they built the company on the back on, in being Le Mans, they was on the sidelines for too long. Enter Tom Walkinshaw, the team principal with a vision to bring the heyday back to Jaguar and set out to build a Le Mans team under the Jaguar name. With great timing, Group C had a new set of regulations, meaning that Jaguar had a great opportunity to jump back into the sport and prove themselves once again. Group C racing was long distance battles, sometimes spanning over 1,000 kilometres, with the cars limited to under 700 kilograms in weight and only allowing a 55 litre fuel tank with 5 stops permitted per race for refuelling. The main regulation was there was no regulations for the engine plants, and this led to one of the most innovative eras in Le Mans in terms of trying to get as much powerful packs as possible into these Group C cars. With this, a whole variety of engine setups were across the grids, with the Porsche with a flat 6 engine, what was turbocharged. The Lancia LC2, powered by a Ferrari V8, was super quick, but unfortunately reliability wasn't the best on sides, as well with the Ford C100, a really slick design, but once again, it couldn't keep running for 24 hours. Group C's popularity at the time was almost on par with Formula 1, if not the cars could compete with the Formula 1 cars at the time. With the C1 cars breaking over the 400 km/h mark down the Mulsanne Straight, with Peugeot breaking 252 miles an hour, these cars were beasts. With the competition at its peak, Jaguar had a huge mountain to climb to set a statement in Group C. Tom Walkinshaw and Tony Southgate set out to bring back the Jaguar brand into Le Mans and not only compete but take over the whole thing and become victorious again in this prestigious sport. The journey began in 1985 with the Jaguar XJR-9. With a V12 engine, this was the largest the sport had ever seen till that point. The car definitely did show promise, but going back into Le Mans where the teams were already extremely established, including Porsche, they didn't really have much of a chance. And from that point forward, they definitely knew they had a long journey to go to the front of the grid. Southgate and the Jaguar team worked tirelessly to bring the XJR-8 back to the 24 hours of racing, and this car was an improvement in all areas and even improved that V12, making an even bigger engine with more power. Handling the other side was looking better. This car could all of a sudden compete with the top of the grid. In 1987, the XJR-8 set out to exactly what everyone thought it would do, win races, and it did that with the World Sports Car Championship. But unfortunately, Jaguar wanted more. They wanted Le Mans. Another year had passed and another car came out from Jaguar, the XJR-9. With 700 horsepower, still with that V12 7-litre engine, this car was fine-tuned. With using Venturi channels that Southgate developed for the Ford C100 from the Imperial College, he took on this advice and went away from the normal standard of the Porsche ducktail rear and redeveloped this spot, going for a much more aerodynamically stable rear wing, what was very high on downforce but very low on drag, perfect for the Mulsanne straight. June 1998, the atmosphere at Le Mans was electric. Every stand filled to the brim with everyone knowing what was going to go down at the racetrack in front of them. Porsche, the reigning champions, consecutively winning 7 years in a row, and Jaguar with a car that was set out to beat them. John Nielsen and Andy Wallace, all experienced drivers that knew their way around the Le Mans circuit, and they had a long race ahead of them, 24 hours to be precise. The race was very tough, as Le Mans always is. Many cars dropped out with reliability issues, and as night fell, the Jaguars kept looking flawless. By the time the sun came up, they were running 1, 2, 3 in the standing order. It was all smooth sailing to the last few moments of the race, where the leading Jaguar got stuck in 4th gear and the transmission completely shutting down. But luckily with that V12 engine in the back, they had enough torque to push on through. Speaking about pushing, it was very lucky they were lined 1, 2, 3. With the front running car with a transmission issue, they lined up within a couple seconds of each other, just in case if the car was to foul, they were willing to push it across the line. Now that would be a way to finish Le Mans. But they didn't need to worry about that problem, as all 3 cars crossed the line, cementing Jaguar's Le Mans legacy once again. A true British motorsport story, and the 60,000 fans at the Le Mans circuit just erupted. Sadly, the XJR-9 was the last of a dying breed of Group C cars, and that famous British V12 had to put on the sidelines for a twin turbocharged V6, something a bit more modern. But that doesn't mean they didn't have any more successes with it, and in 1990 they won Le Mans once again. However, the rise of Sauber Mercedes came along and dominated the sport even more again, and it goes to show from the start, all great things in motorsport must come to an end. And unfortunately Jaguar retired, but knowing they did make the comeback from starting in the 1950s, winning 6 consecutive races, to coming back and winning it twice again over. Jaguar come back with a statement to beat the norm, to beat Porsche that was dominating the sport once. Of course, it wasn't an overnight thing and took many years, but the determination of Wallace and Southgate had to bring back the Jaguar team over the many years to produce the fastest car maybe in the world at the time is a truly great story. If you made it this far through the video, I really appreciate you watching this. If you could do me a favour and hit that subscribe button and let me know any feedback in the description, maybe even another car story, I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next one.